Good morning, students. Today we are going to start our new lesson, that is the Mauryan Empire. So we are going to do the Mauryan Empire today, and this lesson is also going to come in your pre-annual. Okay, so listen carefully. The Mauryan Empire, that is the chapter 9. Okay, your chapter 9 is selected for your pre-annual portion. Okay, so students, now let us start the Mauryan Empire. What do you understand about the Mauryas? The establishment of the Mauryas from the very beginning marks a new era in the human Indian history. In this, they were the first empire, a large country which was politically unified under the Mauryas. It was a country which was administered, which was politically unified in its administration, and it had a certain development in the field of administration also. There are certain sources to study about the Mauryan period or Mauryan Empire. What are those sources? The sources are Arthashastra and Indica. Now, what is Arthashastra? Underline it. Arthashastra was written by Chanakya. His another name is also known as the Kautilya. This book deals with the art of administration and politics. Remember, administration and politics, what I told in the beginning, they were very defined and they had developed in the administrative field. See, a book is also their Arthashastra, through which their administration and their politics is defined in this literature, in this text. So through this we can understand that how developed they were in this field. Next is Indica, which was written by Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. This book provides valuable information of the Mauryan administration and on the economic and social conditions of that period. Next, archaeological sources. The rock and pillar edicts of Ashoka also provide valuable information about the Mauryan Empire. The silver coins of the Mauryas tell us a lot about the economic conditions under the Mauryas. Then comes about the Chandragupta Maurya. Now, what you can understand about Chandragupta Maurya? In 321 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya overthrew the last Nanda king. Who was he? The Dhanananda, and seized the throne of Magad. His success was largely due to the guidance and training of his advisor Chanakya. See, Chandragupta Maurya, who overthrew the last Nanda king, Dhanananda, who was ruling over the empire, and seized the throne from him of Magad. His success was largely only due to the guidance of Chanakya. Chanakya's politics, Chanakya's measurement, his knowledge, his wisdom given to Chandragupta Maurya during the time of the annexation of Magad helped him to acquire it successfully without any much loss. So Chandragupta was an official in the army of Nandas. He got a very huge respect. He wanted to overthrow the extremely unpopular Dhanananda. Okay, now he wanted to overthrow extremely unpopular Dhanananda. He escaped to Punjab, where he met Chanakya. He learned and a wise Brahmana scholar and a teacher in Taxila University. He was a learned. Who was Chanakya? Chanakya was a learned and a wise Brahmana scholar. He was, and a teacher in Taxila University. So he escaped to Punjab. There he got his training from Chanakya, the wisdom. Next is Chanakya, who had a personal grudge. I'm talking about Chanakya Kautilya, who had a personal grudge against Dhanananda. Okay. Trained Chandragupta in arts of warfare and administration. He helped Chandragupta to organize an army and seize the throne of Magad by overthrowing Dhanananda. Chanakya's guidance was as valuable and important as Chandragupta's bravery and military strength. Chanakya's guidance was as valuable and important as Chandragupta's bravery and money. Chandragupta's bravery and strength was there, but his wisdom, his knowledge, his advice was very, very powerful, and which was applicable, and it was successful also once it is applied honestly. A few years later, after the Alexander's death, fighting broke out. Okay, here Alexander's death was declared and broke out between his generals, because Alexander at that time had controlled many regions in India. But after his death was declared, fighting broke out between his generals for the control of his vast empire. Seleucus, one of the Alexander's generals, became the ruler of the territory stretching from Asia Minor to the Indus. So in 305 BCE, he crossed the Indus. He crossed the Indus, and then, to recover the territories that Alexander had conquered earlier, Chandragupta Maurya defeated him and freed northwestern India from Greek control. Seleucus was compelled to sign a treaty. Seleucus was compelled to sign a treaty according to which he had to give eastern Afghanistan, Balochistan, and areas west of Indus to Chandragupta. He gave his daughter to Chandragupta in marriage and sent Megasthenes as ambassador to Chandragupta's court. In return, Seleucus received 500 war elephants. Chandragupta Maurya built a vast empire, which was the first great in Indian history. See, students, when you are coming to Seleucus part, you will see that Seleucus was not as much you can compare successful as Alexander, though he has put his imprint as a strong general, but you cannot compare him as strong as Alexander. So after Alexander, there were certain areas through which treaties or negotiations, or you can war, sudden attack. He was actually adjusting those areas with them. So he was compelled to sign certain treaties, which was given back to Chandragupta Maurya. And Chandragupta Maurya, who was a great hero, who freed the north-western India from the Greek control. As Greek control was having, from the beginning only it is told that from the Asia Minor it continued to the Indus Valley region. So these areas were under the control of the Greeks. But slowly Chandragupta entered those regions and started to keep control of his empire. So Seleucus was compelled to sign a treaty according to which he had to give his eastern Afghanistan, Balochistan, and areas west of Indus to Chandragupta. He gave his daughter to Chandragupta in marriage and sent Megasthenes as ambassador to Chandragupta's court. In return, Seleucus received 500 war elephants. That means it was a friendly signing, compelling of the treaty. Chandragupta Maurya built a vast empire, which was the first great empire in Indian history. By the end of his reign, the Mauryan Empire stretched from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Bengal in the east, from the Himalayas in the north to Narmada in the south. The powerful kingdom of Kalinga in the east, however, was independent. Bindusara. Chandragupta Maurya was succeeded by his son Bindusara, who ruled for about 25 years. During his reign, the empire extended up to Mysore. He was succeeded by his son Ashoka. Now, Ashoka the Great, we are going to study Mauryan Empire and Ashoka the Great. When Ashoka ascended the throne in 273 BC, Kalinga was the only kingdom that was not under the Mauryan control, which was a disturbing point for Ashoka. Now, Kalinga was a powerful kingdom. It controlled the land and the sea routes to South India. Kalinga was such an important point that it was a connectivity to southern region. Okay, so that is why it was can tell a very important point for Ashoka and a problematic area. That is why he wanted to get control of it so that he can get connectivity to the southern part also easily. So the land and sea routes to South India and Southeast Asia. Control of this region would give Ashoka the key to the greater economic prosperity. This was known to Ashoka that if this region, Kalinga region, is controlled under his control, then it can get connectivity to a more vast region. So in 261 BC, Ashoka attacked Kalinga and conquered it after a bitter struggle. Strong struggle was there. His empire now stretched from the Himalayas in the north to Mysore in the south, and from the Hindu Kush in the northwest to Brahmaputra in the east. Okay, you underline it. His empire now stretched from Himalayas in the north to Mysore in the south, from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Brahmaputra in the east, as in the map also is given in your book on the same page. So it is demarcated here. Next, it also included Kabul, Kandahar, Herat, and parts of Nepal and Kashmir. So Ashoka's victory in Kalinga did not bring him any joy and satisfaction. The death, the destruction, and great human suffering in this war filled his heart with sorrow and remorse. The Kalinga war became a turning point in Ashoka's life. He made up his mind to give up the warfare and conquer the hearts of people with love. So, Ashoka was deeply influenced by the Buddhist principles of compassion, peace, and non-violence, and he embraced Buddhism and devoted his life to the moral and material welfare of his subjects. The policy of Digvijaya, conquest of territory, was replaced by Dhamma Vijaya, that is, conquest through dharma, with love, affection to the people, to make the people know that what is purity, what is life, what is love, what is affection. And through love and affection, there is no other powerful thing which we can achieve, we can win. Okay, so till this much we'll do today. Okay, next class we'll start from Ashoka's Dhamma, not full chapter in one video class, we will do half chapter. Okay, till this much, and you are getting your little bit small revision work over it. Okay, so you all try to do those revision works in your copies. Okay, students, thank you. We are going to meet in the live class also. If any doubt, queries, do continue and ask me also. Okay, attend the live class. Thank you, students.